No, I want to know, and maybe I should already know this, but where did your love or your passion for the Rock Hall come from? Joe, I'm
Oh,
asking because
yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
Yeah.
I mean, it was clear where that question was directed. I think it comes from, we're talking about generations. Like I am the VH1 list generation. When I was coming of age, and if you wanted to know about rock and roll and like the history of rock and maybe why you might want to love the 80s or 90s or other decades, that was like so available. And I watched a lot of that stuff and like really consumed it. And I became kind of like a classic rock head. And then also VH1 at that time would air the induction ceremonies. So I was taking that in as well. It was all kind of part of this education about the history of music. And so it was all part of it to me. And also, my dad is from Cleveland, so I have relatives there. So we would go to the museum every year, like around my like spring break or whatever. That was my spring break.
Oh God.
But yeah, so like there was, and the museum was really cool for, say, like a 13-year-old in the early 2000s when Wikipedia isn't quite a thing, and you don't have like every rock doc at your fingertips because there's no streaming services. So going to the Rock Hall was like a true education and was very, very cool. So I think all those things kind of combined. I didn't know until much later that like, oh, nobody pays attention to the Rock Hall. I just, I happen to have all this knowledge about it. And then, I leaned into it with a podcast and made Kristen join me.
And also, as you got older, I think you were like, oh, I have all this knowledge, like accidentally or whatever. It was like a thing that you kind of built upon. And then you're like, well, I might as well just keep knowing about it. Or did you like it? Like,
no, I mean, like it wasn't like, well,
trying to imagine.
I guess I'm on this road. No, it was like I have the genuine interest in it. And then, yeah, I think there was a time where I was like not really paying attention. And then I came back to it and was like, oh, I recognize the appeal of it almost from like a sports fan angle of like, oh, there's seasons to this. There's like the nominee list comes out and then who gets inducted and then who shows up at the induction ceremony and then the broadcast of the ceremony and like all these, and like, Future Rock Legends is a website where they have all this data that you can spend hours just like clicking around and seeing like how many times was Chic nominated and like who was nominated this year and didn't get in, how many, this, that, who's not and who's never been nominated, all that stuff. So it appealed to a certain part of my brain. And so, yeah, I stand.